Hello, Internet, and welcome back to Antiheroes Anonymous, or welcome for the first time if it's your first time joining us. I'm Ethan, and I'm the Dungeon Master for this 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons show. I will have some announcements and a recap before we dive into tonight's action, but before any of that, Nick, would you care to kick off some player introductions?
Sure. Hi, I'm Nick. I play Embers of White Ash, the Tabaxi Monk.
Hi, I'm Kay. I play Lady Elwyn Amalos, the Elvish Druid.
Always make me laugh before my turn, Kay. Okay, I'm Melissa. I play Tuppence, who is a pixie bard.
Hi, I'm Zach, and I play Rook, who is a changeling artificer.
So those announcements I mentioned before, we premiere our episodes on YouTube every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Except probably next week, we won't be premiering an episode because several of us are getting our second shot of the vaccine in proximity to our recording date. So odds are one of us is going to be feeling side effects. So we're just gonna we're gonna skip a week. But hooray for vaccines!
Yeah.
Throughout the show, we use a variety of custom items, as well as a custom pixie lineage, which is played by Melissa. So be aware of that as you're watching. Our character portraits, which you'll see all throughout our layout, were drawn by an artist named Krista Porter, who goes by @KristaPorter with 2 R's at the end on Twitter. If you need a refresher on everything that's going on in the campaign, or just the various characters and places that these wonderful players are interacting with, you can check out our campaign wiki at World Anvil. You can check the video description for links and information to everything I just mentioned and more, including some links to Stop Asian Hate resources, as well as Black Lives Matter resources. Finally, we hope you follow us on Twitter at Antiheroes Anon to get information about what we're doing and when. And lastly, we just hope that you enjoy the show, share with your friends, and come back to watch some more. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll that intro video. And welcome back. Previously on Antiheroes Anonymous, the Silver Seekers are investigating a rash of strange creature attacks across Port Horizon Shroud on the behalf of an Imperial Warden named Torin Brenwarm. They learned from a kobold named Molo that the Dragontooth Brotherhood are using the attacks as a distraction for a caravan raid that they're planning in a few days' time. Molo claims that this is the first step towards restoring the ancient dragons, and somehow the governor of Port Horizon Shroud, a dragonborn named Nyasa, is somehow involved. When they went to report back to their warden contact, they found him poisoned in an alley. After some quick action, they managed to stabilize him and allowed him to recover overnight. And now they are finally ready to meet with him again and plan their next steps. So, the group of you returned to the mill house with your Imperial Warden contact Torin Brenwarm in tow. When you got back to the mill house, Megan Brandyman, the cleric of Palor, who you brought him to have the poison removed, makes her excuses and bids farewell for the night to go back to her temple, where she was about to take her rest before the group of you barged in. Nora manages to get Torin all checked in just slightly raising an eyebrow at the scratches and bruises and dents that he still exhibits, but manages to get him checked into a room. And the group of you have essentially returned to the mill house and begun to settle back in. Is there anything you would like to do with your night?
Before Megan leaves, Rook would ask her if she wanted to be walked home and offer to walk her back to the church.
She looks up at you because she's a small halfling woman, and she says, "No, I think that's quite all right. I'll be fine." And she actually kind of pulls aside her robes a little bit, and you can see that she has a little dagger in her belt. I learned to defend myself well enough, and I have the blessing of Paylor upon me. I'm not afraid of any ne'er-do-wells in the night.
Okay, well, take care then. Good luck, or stay safe.
Thank you. You as well. And as she turns to leave, she turns back to you one more time and just says, "Take good care of Embers, would you? She was very important to my granddad, and well, I'd hate to see anything bad happen to her."
Of course.
Right. Well, I'll be off then. Do swing by the temple sometime. I'd love to hear more of how this progresses.
Yeah, will do.
Yep. And with that, she turns away into the night. She actually utters a short prayer and conjures a globe of light that kind of floats alongside as she walks, just to kind of illuminate her path. And then she disappears.
All right, so I guess the question now is, do we have that talk with Mr. Brandworm tonight, or do we give him the night to rest and we have the discussion in the morning?
I'd rather do it in the morning. I'm really tired.
Depends on if he's gonna be here in the morning.
Well, I think he's likely to stay here for a few days at the very least.
Right, but if he goes back to work or whatever tomorrow before we wake up, I want to check in with him.
He already gone up to his room, or is he still down?
If he's still down here, he's probably heading that direction, but you could stop him and catch him and bring him over if you want.
Yeah, I think Rook would stop him just for a moment.
Yes. What can I do for you?
Hey, what's your work schedule for tomorrow? Are you gonna be around in the morning?
He thinks for a second and says, "I think I'm supposed to have the night shift tomorrow."
Okay.
If I recall the schedule correctly. Things are a bit fuzzy still up in the old noggin, but I think I can stick around to chat in the morning. It seems as if we have some things to catch up on.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you didn't have an early morning shift or something. We missed.
Have a good night, Torin.
Yeah.
He looks over towards Elwyn and says, "Well, I thank you kindly, Lady Amelos. I very much appreciate the sentiment. I think I'm going to sleep like a log."
All right, good night then.
Yeah, and he kind of drags himself up the stairs. When he speaks, it's still loud and with energy, but like as he turns to move, he's limping a bit, and kind of favoring one of his legs. And you can see he occasionally like rubs one of his arms where he has some bruising and scratches. He's clearly in pain, but he somehow still puts on that energetic, loud outward appearance.
Well, yep, sounds like we can have a discussion in the morning. So.
Right, so I guess we should retire to our own room.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. As the group of you head up to your room, you just spot Malt peeking his head out from his little structure up in the rafters, kind of watching you as you go, watching all the events of the night transpire. And you're kind of the last ones in the tap room for the night. So as you go up the stairs, you see him just tuck his head back in, and the candlelight from within his little house gets extinguished.
I think Tuppence would fly up real quick to thank
Oh,
him
before he goes to bed.
One more time before bed.
You're quite welcome.
Well,
I still need to hear the rumors you recovered for me while I was absent, though. You
Oh, sure.
did do your duty, didn't you?
Well, of course I did. But you see, everything happens for a reason. If we hadn't sent you out, something bad might have really. You might not be with us anymore. That old Torin, that loud guy.
It's true. From my vantage point in the air, I had a prime view of his location in the alley. Passers-by in the streets would be unlikely to have noticed him where he had fallen.
Okay, so on one note, I'll give you something to dream about. I overheard him talking about trains. Okay, bye.
He opens his mouth to get more information out of you, but you're already gone. And he just you hear him grumble something about, "No, I'll talk to her more in the morning." And then he turns around and goes into his house.
All right. So we'll go upstairs. I will flop on one of the beds.
I think it's just the one queen or
Is it
king
the
size
one
bed,
bed?
isn't it?
It was 2 beds, I thought.
That's right.
I thought
It's
we
two.
had two
It's two.
beds.
Yeah.
I forgot. You opted for the room with 2 smaller beds
Yeah.
rather than 1 big bed.
I
I'll take
basically
the other
take some time to arrange the pillows just so that I can sit up in bed in trance in a sitting position.
Tuppence looks at Embers. You mind?
Oh, and Embers curls up in the corner.
I'll go dive into her fur.
I think
We got 3 beds. Embers is the 3rd bed.
yeah, the fur bed. I think Rook stays up for a little bit and lights a candle and sits at the little desk and kind of
Your light ring would probably be a smaller, less intrusive
if
light than a candle.
Yeah, if that's the case, then he
because
can do
it's only
that.
a 5-foot radius of
It's like dim light. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
that's
very
absolutely less invasive than a candle.
okay. Yeah, so he'd probably do that and then mess around more with that jug of metallic liquid for a little while. Maybe
I am going to make up my little bed, see that Rook is still up, creep over, and then lean over his shoulder. Just say, "What you working on?"
and Rook will look over and be like, "Oh, yeah, I didn't want to bother everyone earlier, but apparently I got a package and this was inside of it, so I'm kind of trying to make."
Well, what is it?
Rook will kind of explain the best he can of what he's found so far, and is like, "It's just this strange liquid," and he kind of shows Elwyn
the various ways you discovered to kind of harden it
and
shape it and then return it to liquid.
Yeah, and he kind of scratches his head a little bit. He's like, I have some ideas, and I'm confused about where it came from and why it was sent to me. And
do you know who sent it?
Yeah, there was a letter, but they didn't really describe their name, so I was a bit confused about that as well.
You don't recognize the handwriting or anything like that?
I don't think I asked.
The handwriting was very, it
I think
looked
you told
almost
me.
like it had been intentionally written in a sort of nondescript way.
Yeah.
You never made a check or anything about it. But, just at a glance, it's kind of, you didn't recognize it at all.
So, yeah, I think at that, Rook would pull the letter out and he'd unfold it and kind of hold it in between him and Elwyn and then take a look at it and maybe try and discover if he notices anything. He's like, I didn't notice anything before. You want me to roll something?
So Elwyn, you see this letter that reads, "I thought it was about time these were returned to you and hope they will protect you from any troubles the future may bring. Sincerely, E."
They're like, this isn't you, right?
Well, when would I have had time to send you this? We've been together almost the whole time.
I know, I'm just kidding.
But you must know a lot of people whose names start with E.
You and Embers.
And
That's about it. I don't know. I have to think about it a little bit.
what did that mean? Return to you? Was this stuff yours?
See, I don't know. I don't recognize it. That's why it's kind of just a puzzle. I don't really know yet. I'm trying to sort my thoughts out about this. So,
Well, if you want someone to bounce your ideas off of, I don't have to sleep for a while yet.
sure.
I can help you.
If you want to stay up, that's fine. More
Sure.
the merrier.
If you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
I'll remind you, Zach, there were also 3 healing potions in there. I don't know if you tell Elwyn about those as well, or if they're
Not
on the
yet.
desk.
I just have them.
Okay.
I'm more focused on this stuff right now.
Fair. Well, okay. If the two of so you wanted to kind of look at the letter for a second.
Yeah.
Do either of you have proficiency in forgery tools?
No.
No.
Not.
Okay, then it would be just, I think, an intelligence check to kind of investigate this letter.
I never took my dice out.
Well, I rolled a 1, so I think
Yeah, as Rook examines this letter, it's just nothing jumps out about it. It's so well done, you know. The fact that it was written in a way that it almost looks like it was
like intentionally written
like
this way.
printed like on a printing press, that sort of thing.
Okay,
It's like
okay.
very
I see.
intentionally plain letters.
Uh-huh.
I got a 10.
You can tell they're handwritten, but with a 10, anything else you might glean from these? I mean, I think you can tell sort of the same things as Rook. There's a intentional nondescriptness to the writing. You probably also sense, you see just around where the person is signing towards the end, where they are saying sincerely E. It seems like you spot little kind of quivers in some of the letters there that might indicate like some hesitation or something like that, or nervousness or uncertainty. It's hard to tell what it could mean, but yeah,
Are we sure it's an actual E?
it looks like an E.
Rotate it. It's a W.
It's an M.
It's a 3.
It's a 3.
You cracked the code.
All of the above.
And nothing at the same time.
Yeah, so I think with the 1, Rook kind of like pulls it out and like gives it another cursory glance. And is like, yeah, I don't know, it looks normal to me, and just like hands it to Elwyn.
I'll sit down on the bed with it for a while and say, well, it's very intentionally, I think, covered up, but I think this person, whoever this E person is not quite sure they wanted to give this back to you at all. Or maybe they're not sure about contacting you. You don't have any other clues as to who this person might be?
Then like Rook, he like looks up at the ceiling, he leans back in the chair and thinks for a little bit longer. And he kind of shakes
Examines
his
his notes.
head. Huh?
Well, I assume you're going through your like character note right now.
I have him pulled up here, but it's not going to change the outcome. He just kind of shakes his head, and he's just like, no. If anything, this is just some curious alias that somebody is using. So.
Well,
he's
if
like,
anything, maybe it's comforting to know you've got some kind of a guardian angel out there. Something like that. And not someone who wishes to do you harm.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little worried when I received a package at first that it was the latter, but sure enough, it was just a care package of sorts.
Well, then how is that stuff meant to protect you? And I point at the metallic liquid that you had.
Oh, well, it's probably a combination, and he reaches into his satchel and pulls out the healing potions. Like these also came along with it.
Oh, wow.
And
Take
he
one
kind
and
of
look at
he
it.
hands Elwyn one.
I think Elwyn probably would have seen a healing potion or two in her day back in her
So-
home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this'll come in handy.
Yeah, I was just about ready to uncork one of them when we saw Torin, but you leapt to it so quickly and used your healing magic that I didn't need to.
It turns out that it didn't really help much, did it?
I mean, it got him back on his feet long enough that we could, cleanse his poison with Megan's help.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
So
That
But yeah.
was pretty that was something. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that happen to a person before.
yeah, I'm a bit worried if we dig in too deep. I think we need to be a little cautious. I mean,
I-
obviously he's not very subtle. Um, so I think we have that element that we can work with, but at the same
Yeah, I
time,
reckon
there's
if we do get
obviously
his help, we're gonna have to give him something to maybe cause a distraction, since he's so good at drawing attention to himself.
yeah. And Rook will think for a minute longer and try and recall what he knows of the governor
Oh,
while
yeah.
he's on the subject. What do you want me to think about? What do you want me to roll?
A history check would do the trick.
Just straight?
Yeah, I don't think Rook would have any sort of advantage in this corner of the world specifically. Other
Okay.
corners of the world, maybe, but
It's better than I had before. 16. That is a dirty 20.
okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, you've heard a story about Governor Nyasa, just one, but it's actually a pretty famous story around Port Horizon Shroud and surrounding cities. You know that she's a dragon-born woman with black scales, and she is actually an honorary Draco Spear, which is quite a high title within the Empire. It's a very important position, and you know that it is a title that is conferred when someone does something of sort of like military significance or that sort of thing. And the story you've heard is basically how she achieved her title of honorary Draco Spear. She's known for there was an incident where an ice troll was terrorizing a series of farms surrounding Port Horizon Shroud. They'd lost, livestock, and people had started to go missing, and this creature was getting bolder and bolder, and it was threatening to wipe out like an entire farming community. And basically through her heroic actions, she was able to organize a group of essentially just like village militia, and set up a tactical situation where they were able to take this creature down and protect the remainder of this sort of farming village near Port Horizon Shroud. And so basically her cunning and tactics in that situation, as well as her leadership ability to like rally the militia and prevent any further casualty, earned her title of honorary Draco Spear.
Okay. Yeah.
So you would basically know her as like a formidable warrior. She has kind of like a folk hero status among people of this town. And she's also quite intelligent from what you understand.
Mm-hmm. So while they're on the subject and Rook's thinking about this, he would also say, yeah, I feel like for this whole caravan thing, they were getting weapons probably in case. Well, I mean, it sounds like the governor is directly involved, and if she's a formidable warrior, as the stories go, then they would probably want to, you know, have some amount of defense for that. Her and her
Defense
retinue.
against her.
Yeah.
So it's not likely she's helping them.
I don't think so. It doesn't
Well,
make
that's
sense.
good to know.
Yeah.
Still, it's really dark what's happening in this town. I don't like it.
Yeah. Hopefully this is the worst of it, and if we can solve this quickly, then we can, you know, see some brighter parts of it, of the city, I guess. Do some nicer jobs.
Well, anyway, thanks for showing me your stuff. It's interesting. If you need help to figure out what that stuff does, I'm happy to help. But
Yeah, I was gonna do a few more tests if you wanted to stay up with me, and then go
Sure.
to bed. And then so with lab
Sure.
assistant Elwyn, I think Rook would want to test a few more things, just like little things that we don't really need to go through, but like, you know, how
Yeah.
how
You
long he
spend
can make pieces and stuff like that, and like what the, you know, some like dimensions and stuff, and kind of like take some notes. So
Yeah, you spend a little bit of time, and definitely having Elwyn to assist speeds up your research into this material. And you identify several new ways to sort of work with it, and get different shapes and things out of it. Yeah, you feel like you're much further along your effort to understand this material,
okay.
whatever it may be. And then eventually the two of you will find your rest as well. Tuppence, who's been snoozing for a little bit, at some point in the night, you begin to dream, and you're having. It's a very peaceful dream. You're on a grassy plain, and as you're standing there, you watch as flowers of all colors begin popping up in front of you. And they're tulips, but of various rainbow colors, right? And as each one of them pops up, it plays a single note. It almost sounds like a horn or a trumpet, and you find yourself just kind of giggling as these tulips pop up out of the ground, each one playing a note, and together creating this song that kind of ripples across the field as the tulips emerge. And you know these to be trumpet tulips. There was a field of them quite near your home, and you're just enjoying watching them pop up and play their song.
That's nice. I imagine my wings are fluttering.
Mm-hmm. And there's a nice breeze that's kind of keeping you aloft, so that you don't have to use your wings to you don't have to exert too much effort. You're just kind of floating and listening. It's very peaceful.
And do I recognize the song?
Yeah, it's when you take a second to listen to it, it's that same melody that you remember your mother would play to you, that lullaby, your mother's song of rest, and it just continues to play peacefully as the tulips this song it washes across the wave of them, and then it washes back the other direction, almost as if the song is just passing through one ear and then back through the other ear, on repeat. And then suddenly you smell something.
Brownies?
No, it's an acrid, odious, offensive smell. It's the smell of smoke.
Burnt brownies.
And my dream turned.
And you begin to see ashes drifting down from the sky onto this field of trumpet tulips. And as the ashes touch the trumpet tulips, they shrink back down into the ground, and the song dies with them. And you turn around back towards the direction of the forest that contains the village Silent Run, your home, and the forest is ablaze with fire. The orange flames are licking the trunks of the trees all the way up to the branches, and you can see various fey creatures and intelligent beasts darting out of the woods in every direction, raising a ruckus as they go. It's a familiar scene.
Yes. Do I get any glimpse of the one responsible?
Well, your home is still some ways off. Do you dart in that direction?
Yes.
You
Yes.
flutter as fast as you can across the plains towards the forest. Begin to make your way through the boughs of the trees, and flaming branches are falling down in front of you here and there, and you're choking on smoke as you go. Eventually, you get to the clearing that makes up Silent Run, and you can see the toadstool houses and the tree knot buildings that your people have created into a village here. And you can see other pixies and sprites, darting into their houses and grabbing loved ones and flying away as fast as they can. And in the center of the clearing, you see a figure looming and towering amongst all of these small creatures, cloaked in a dark hood. Their back to you.
I'm gonna fly up to it and pull down the hood.
You pull down the hood, and the figure kind of turns as you're pulling the hood. And as they do so, they pull up from their side, like a pocket. They pull up this paper fan and unfurl it in front of their face. And across the paper fan is the image of a sleeping black cat with a single white spot on its chest. And the cat opens one eye slowly and winks at you. And as it does so, you hear, "Tuppy! Tuppy! It's time to wake up! You need to wake up!" And you are awake in the middle of the night, your friends sleeping around you. And there's a faint glow from your pack.
Okay, I'll reach around in it and pull out what's glowing.
You pull out the glowing object, and the glow seems to be fading, but it's your mother's pan flute. And as you hold it, you hear a sound next to your ear, a beating of wings, tiny pixie wings. And the glow stops, and the sound stops.
That's trippy. Mom's trying to tell me something. I wonder what it is. I'm gonna reach in and get out the fan out of my pack and open it up.
Just like in your dream, there's a black sleeping cat across the front of this paper fan. But unlike your dream, it doesn't open its eyes and wink at you. It just continues to sleep.
Okay, I'm just gonna look at it and see if there's anything strange about it at all. I think I can't do this. Maybe one of them will be able to do it. I'll put it back in until morning.
You put the fan back in. Do you put the pan flute back in as well?
I think I'm gonna hold on to that for a while.
You curl back up in Ember's fur. And it takes a little while to get back to sleep, but eventually you do. And no more dreams visit you in the night.
Okay.
Rook, after you go to sleep for the night,
Okay.
you also have a night visitation of sorts. You find yourself standing in emptiness, just a black void as far as you can see. And endless time seems to pass as you're just here and there's nothing around you. You call out and your voice just echoes around. But then there's a ripple in the emptiness and nothingness in front of you. and coming up from the dark void, a shape begins to form, and it is a resemblance of yourself in your changeling form, in your true form.
Okay.
And it says, Vertinor.
Yes.
What are you doing?
Rook just kind of cocked his head at this shape of himself. What? Why do you ask?
It's dangerous to stay here, and you know it.
Yeah, and Rook kind of rolls his eyes and says, "Yeah, I know."
If someone has found you and knows who you are, others will too.
Rook just kind of sighs and looks at himself and just says, "Yeah, when I got that package, I was basically ready to pack up and go. But
Why didn't you?
well, I I think I want to try and believe in these people that I'm with."
Why? The longer you spend with them, the closer they will become to finding out your identity. Do you really think they can be trusted once they know? Do you really think that they will trust you once they know?
Yeah, and like he's like, I mean, it is the dream, but he'd start like sweating a little bit, getting a little hot, and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, I mean, the plan was, to try and find people and work through this. So this is definitely against. This is definitely hard for me, though. I know what you're saying, but yeah, I'm starting to trust them a little bit."
Is it not possible that that is a grave mistake?
It's very possible that that is a grave mistake, but
But you are certain they can help you advance your goals?
no. But I think that sometimes you need to take some risks when there's opportunities. And if I keep running from place to place, I don't know if I'll make any progress. But I think that I just need to be on the lookout now a little bit more.
Good. There will be people looking for you, and you know this.
I know this.
And the shape begins to fade back into the void. But as it goes, it just says one more thing. Remember, your secret is your safety. Your secret is their safety. And then it disappears back into the void. And that is the end of that dream.
What a nice dream.
Yeah, very pleasant.
Does Rook wake up?
No, you kind of have a fitful night's sleep
Yeah. Okay.
after that, but so you're kind of awake and then asleep, and then awake and then asleep, but you don't wake up suddenly like Tuppence did or anything like that.
Is it better to have a nice dream like Tuppence that turns bad, or just to have one that's bad all the way through?
Just battle away.
Good question. That's it, though. That's everything that happens in the night. The group of you wake up and complete a long rest.
Question for Rook. When you handed me the healing potion, was it just to show me, or were you like, here, you can have it?
Probably a little bit of A, a little bit of B, but I think he was offering it because he was planning on using
Okay.
it for the group. He doesn't have. I don't think he has a need for 3 healing potions. So
Okay. Just wanted to get that clear in my head if I should add it to my inventory.
yeah, so you'd
or
probably
not.
like. He's like, here, you can hold on to this one if you'd like.
Okay.
I don't need
Are
all
you
3
sure?
of them.
Oh, thank
Type
you.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the morning is yours. Who's the earliest to rise, do you think?
Probably me, because I only need 4
Yeah.
hours.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You look around and you can see that Rook is kind of like his blankets are like all a mess. He's clearly been tossing and turning.
Yeah.
Tuppence is curled up with her pan flute in Embers' fur.
I think
Embers
I'd
is making
probably
little kitty snores.
Aw.
Aw.
I'd probably just like get up and stretch and like pull the blankets back over Rook, kind of smooth his hair out of his face a little bit, and then go check on Embers and Tuppence and make sure they're all good. I'll be like taking, you know how you like if a kid falls asleep with glasses, you like take the glasses off and set them aside. I think I'll go over and like extract the pan flute from Tuppence and put it back next to her bag just so she doesn't like hurt herself sleeping with it.
Resists.
She's
Okay.
really strong.
Then I give up. Yeah, I'd lose an arm wrestling match with her,
Yeah,
so
Well, we all would. So, when you're doing this, can you just make a quick perception check for me?
sure. Oh, that's really, really good. That's a dirty 20.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
When you're tucking Rook back in, there is a section of his hair that is just like pure white. It's as if there was like a bit of whiteness that just went through one part of his hair that you have never noticed before.
Okay. Okay. Noted. Tuck him back in, and I'll make sure that like Embers is resting well on her arm or whatever. And if I need to like put a blanket over her, I'll do that too. And then I'll like go downstairs and check on. It's like butt crack of dawn, I think, at this point. But I'll go down and check on Nora and see if she needs help with anything.
Oh man, she might still be sleeping because she was up pretty late waiting for the group of you to get home.
If that's the case, I might like help myself to like a cup of tea or something.
Yeah,
Sit
that's
down.
absolutely fine. Even Malt is sleeping. Probably the only person who would be awake would be Tess, and she sees you come in, and she goes to the opposite corner of the room and kind of like sits by the fire.
I'm not going to bother her. I know she's still probably a little upset about me having to cast that spell on her. So I will just make myself a cup of tea and sit next to a window and kind of look out and watch the town wake up.
Yep. It looks like it's going to be a nice, kind of bright spring morning, probably. And then I guess probably Embers be the next to wake up. And I guess that would wake up Tuppence as well.
Good morning, Embers. Oh yeah. I had a really weird dream last night, which reminds me, I want to ask you something. I reach in my backpack and I bring out the fan. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
Embers will take the fan and examine it closely.
Yeah. Roll a history check.
That's a 15.
15. It strikes a chord. It seems like something you might have seen at some point in your life, but it's been so long, like you can't place it. You were in prison for 20 years, so it's you know it was before then, but you can't remember when exactly or where.
Yeah, I'll just tell Tuppence I've I've traveled a lot. I've seen this before, but I can't quite place where that might have been.
Well, if you think of anything at all, it would help a lot. This is really important.
I don't think it's something I've seen. It's not something I read about.
Do you? Well, I was thinking about telling you where I got it, but I think I'll wait a little bit longer since you don't seem to remember it right away.
Sorry, Tuppence.
That's okay. That's okay. Thanks for trying. I'm ready for some coffee. How about you?
I'll be down as soon as I finish my morning ablutions.
Okay.
And Ember starts to bathe herself.
So Rook wakes up to the sound of meh, 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 meh. Cat tongue over cat fur.
Yeah, I think Rook sort of he probably wakes up and then just like rolls over again and tries to sleep a little bit longer. He's like,
Yeah.
I can try and ignore this.
But it's like after your first alarm has gone off, you know, you don't truly get back to sleep.
Yeah, he just tries a little bit though. You know how it is. Puts
Yeah.
it on, he snoozes it, and
And eventually, the group of you are reunited in the tap room down below. Nora begins to wake up. Her, Tess, and it seems Molo begin to go about preparing the space for any morning visitors who might come in for breakfast. Molo seems very confused by like all the tasks that he is assigned. Like someone has him trying to sweep the floor, and he's like, "Well, I don't understand why we need to sweep the floor. It looks good to me." And Tess is just like, "It's dirty, Molo." And he's like, "Well, no, the cave floor that I lived on was so much dirtier. This is nothing. This is absolutely fine. Why do people get so worried about a little bit of dirt?" He's like sweeping the dirt, but it's just basically creating big dirt clouds in the air. He's not really doing a good job. Tess is trying to show him how to do it, but to no avail. Nora comes down and comes over with some breakfast and some coffee and tea for the group of you. Sets it all down and kind of sits down with you and says, "Well, the group of you seem to have had a busy day yesterday.
It was a long day.
Brought back not one, but two new guests for the mill house."
and then Rook's like rubbing his eyes. He's like 3 actually, I think. Or wait, was that yesterday we brought Tess? You're right, just 2. It's like he's like not there. He's like I don't know anymore. Very sleepy Rook.
I like push a cup of coffee toward him. You pour some coffee for him and push it over.
Rook like doesn't realize it's there for a minute. He's like, oh yeah, I should drink this.
I can make an extra strong batch if that would help.
You see a nod. Head nod. Yes, please.
All right. I'll be right back with that. And she goes back into the kitchen.
Meanwhile, Tuppence is sad already 3.
Doesn't take much. They're very small cups.
Is there anything the group of you want to talk about with each other or with the various NPCs before Torin wakes up? If not, we can fast forward to him waking up. It's going to be a little bit longer because he's out.
Yeah. I can't think of anything.
The way you said sounded like you had something in mind, so we were all
I
just
know, we're all
waiting.
perked up.
Did y'all sleep well?
No.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You did look like you were having some trouble.
Yeah, not a very pleasant night's rest this time.
Well, it was quite a lot of things happened yesterday. I guess I'm not surprised to hear it.
Hopefully the rest of you did though.
I slept very well, thank you.
Great.
What's the matter, Tuppence? Why are you looking at me like that?
I didn't have a very good night, but you know, it happens.
I think
Yeah,
Embers
fun.
will like nudge Tuppence and like lean in and whisper to her. Do you want to show it to them too?
Yeah, I was thinking about bringing it up to Malt. What do you think? He sees and hears a lot in here.
Malt might know.
Okay. All right. I had enough coffee. I'll see you in a minute. Choo!
You fly
She's a
up
flighty one, isn't she?
initially in the direction of Malt's little structure. But as you start heading in that direction, you can tell that obviously, or right away, that he's not there. And you have to kind of turn around, and you see that he's actually been perched above the group of you while you've been eating breakfast.
Of course he has.
Bright and early.
There you are, you big goofball. Good
Hmm,
morning.
good morning.
You have a minute?
He kind of like raises one of his draconic eyebrow ridges. Very well. What can I do for you?
So Tuppence will kind of give him a very abbreviated version of what happened in her past,
Oh,
and bring out the fan and see if he knows anything about it.
okay. He listens to your whole story, and his expression gets rather grim as you get to the dark parts. And eventually, when you bring out this fan, that I will remind you is more like I mean, it's like the size of a paper fan that like a human would use. So for Tuppence, it's huge. She has to hold it like with her arms spread wide out to like unfurl this fan. He looks at it and says, "I'm very sorry, my little friend. I've never seen anything quite like this, but I will keep my eyes and ears open."
Thank you, I appreciate it. Somebody will say yes someday. I
Um,
hope.
after you say that, he thinks for a second and then just says, "I'm very sorry for your loss, by the way."
Thank you. Okay, let's change the subject or I'll tear up again. Okay. Anybody know around in the area that would have some lore about things like this?
About paper fans
About
or
cats?
cats?
Yeah.
I know many people who enjoy the company of cats, but I don't know any who know much about fans. I will begin to see what I can dig up.
Okay. Thank you. Can I do something for you in return?
You already did and haven't reported any of it back to him.
He shakes his head and says, "No, not for this. This is a
You're
favor
sweet.
for a friend."
Oh, you're so sweet. She'll go in and kiss his cheek.
Some of his scales around his cheeks kind of change color to a bright reddish for a moment, before going back to their normal kind of. I think they're like a greenish or an amberish color. Uh,
I'm so glad that
However,
you're up
I
there
am
watching.
still waiting to hear your findings from last night. I recognize you and your friends are very busy, but at some point I need to know.
Okay, I'll fill you in real quick. And I tell him about the train. And let's see what we're. Oh, I should have made my notes more visible. Oh, I hear merchants talking about the trouble with the caravan, that nothing's getting through, and they're really worried in Amberhearth.
Amberhearth, that's north of here in Ardalier. I've heard of it.
And then I tell him about the train stuff too, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, he seems very interested in that as well. It's obviously a very juicy rumor to know that the Horizon Shroud budget committee, I guess, might be talking about that soon. Yeah, he seems pretty delighted by the rumors you picked up. Well, if you're ever interested in collaborating to see what we can glean, you know where to find me.
Sounds good.
And at this point, other patrons have begun to file in, and he kind of flaps over to a different rafter and settles in to listen to another conversation.
See ya, thanks. Shoo! Fly back down.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else the group of you want to talk about amongst yourselves, Torin will eventually come down. It looks like through the combination of the healing magic that he did receive and a good night's rest, he is starting to feel a little bit better. He still does look, a bit beaten up, but thanks also in part to being a Dragonborn, some of the bruises and things don't show as much as they would on a fleshy creature like, an elf or a changeling. So he looks a little bit better, and he comes down and sits at the table. Well, I guess he'd probably go over to the counter and pay for a meal from Nora first, and then he'd bring that over and sit down with you and begin to eat it, and then say, "So, how'd the group of you sleep?"
Well, some of us slept just fine, and some of us had a little bit of a rough night, but I think we're all in pretty good shape regardless. How about yourself?
I closed my eyes and opened them the next moment, and it was morning. So, quite well, thank you.
That is normally how sleep goes, Torin.
A fine point, Master Rook. A fine point. What I mean is, it was a particularly restful night of sleep.
I gathered that. I was jesting.
Ha! I see now. I guess I'm still waking up.
You and me both. You want some coffee?
Wow, if you're not awake, you've got to be kidding me. This is full volume.
He raises an eyebrow ridge. He seems confused by this. He just takes a sip of coffee.
You really sound awake.
Well, I
Alert.
assure you, I'm not quite there yet.
Woo, okay.
But I am awake enough to discuss our items of business.
Right. So, what were you doing out last night? Were you on patrol when you got jumped?
No, I was on my way back from work to my apartment.
That's right.
I caught sight of them in the alley, and it seems they were attempting to lure me in, and it worked, I suppose.
I'm gonna look around the tavern. Who else is here right now?
Yeah, roll a perception check, or I suppose if you want to see if anyone's has some sort of ulterior motive or is trying to listen into you, that might be more of an insight check, whichever one's better for you.
That's kind of what I'm trying to do. See if anybody's listening. I have the same bonus to both. So.
Okay, then either one.
Okay, that's a 12.
12. You take a glance around. There's not too many people in here yet. There's a family. Looks like two Genasi fathers and their kids sitting in the corner. They're kind of just enjoying their meal, and it looks like Nora has brought their kids some charcoal and paper to draw with. There's really not many people in here so far, and those that you do see look pretty common. They look like common folk. There's no one sitting in a corner with their hood drawn or anything like that.
So nothing obvious.
Yeah.
Still, I'm going to kind of look around and then look at the group of you guys and say, well, given the events of yesterday, I think maybe we ought to go somewhere a little bit more private before we start talking about the things that we found. Maybe up in our quarters.
Ah, yes, an excellent thought.
Up in the quarters or down in the cellar?
Oh, the cellar's a good idea too.
I have no opinion on the matter. I would, however, like to finish my toast first.
Yes, let's finish eating and then we'll go downstairs.
A toast to your toast. More coffee.
Yeah, he holds up his coffee cup and kind of clinks it with you. Yeah, and he finishes his breakfast, and then I guess the group of you ask Nora to use her cellar. She seems a bit perplexed, like, I'm not sure why you would, but okay. And yeah, opens up the back office so that the group of you can go down there.
Great. Well, all right. Then I guess we just tell him everything we learned, leaving out as many of the incriminating details as possible.
Okay. So specifically, what are you leaving out, just so I know?
Where we got the information?
He
Basically.
does try to ask about it,
Um,
but if you kind of dodge the question, he picks up on it and will actually leave it alone. He doesn't pry too much into that. So where you got the information? Anything else?
Oh my goodness.
The only thing I'd want to know is if he remembers anything from the ambush, because he was saying that they were definitely the Dragontooth, part of the Dragontooth Brotherhood.
Mhm.
But he doesn't recognize, like, it was like a woman that attacked like a human woman based off
Yep.
their like physique, but he didn't remember any of the details. See if
Yeah,
he recalls anything from last night, like if anything came back to him.
So after you fill him in and then ask him to kind of detail his attack, he says, "Well, I did remember a few more details," and his voice really echoes in this cellar. It's it's bad. But he says, "The human woman. I thought she was unarmed at first, but her fists. She struck with incredible power." And accuracy like I've never seen. She got in between plates of my armor and hit nerve points and things like that. And then when I eventually did try to flee, she was the one who procured it. She produced a dart, and I think that was what was laced with the poison that hit me in the neck. I remember that, and the others, they seemed to be following her orders. None of them were as highly trained as she was. If it had just been them, I think I might have been able to take them, perhaps. They had numbers, but I have my training.
Embers like perks up a little bit during his description of like the fist art stuff, and like kind of wants to ask him about that, but also just doesn't really want to talk to him in general.
So the group of you might see Embers' tail
I
doing
will pick up
something.
on that.
Yeah.
I will pick up on that, and I will say, "Can you tell me more about this this fighting style that she had? It's very interesting."
Her blows hurt the most, and he kind of gestures to his armor where there were dents before that. I think Rook used mending to repair them. She dented metal plates, if that tells you anything.
That's incredible. You're lucky you survived.
Incredibly. In fact, I would venture to say that they believe I did not, with fairly good reason.
Was she wearing anything on her fists, or did her fists were just powerful enough to dent armor? She didn't have any gloves on or anything?
He thinks for a second and
Gauntlets?
says, "In fact, she did. She had this metal apparatus across her knuckles. That's probably how she was able to dent the metal, now that I think about it."
Okay. That makes a little more sense to me now.
Unfortunately, I don't remember much else. It was a quick scuffle and very much a blur. A painful blur, but a blur.
If it's worth looking into more, I could try and review that memory as well.
He kind of gives you a look.
Yeah, I have
review.
I have some magic that I can use to view the memory for myself of somebody else. So
Yeah,
if we think that there's some details to try and get more information out of, I'm happy to try that.
He nods and says,
Might be
"Yes,
worth.
yes, of course. If you have this ability and it will serve your purpose, then very well."
Kind of looks to the group. Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Give it a shot.
Yeah.
And then so he offers Torin to either if there's a chair to sit down or something, or sort of
There's
crisscross
like a
on the.
barrel I think you could pull over to have him sit on.
Okay, yeah. So we sort of pull over because I'm gonna fall over too. So I'm gonna like sit down as well. Be like, all right, Torin. So just you know, keep your mind focused on that memory and
He
close
nods.
your eyes and we'll give
He
it a
shuts
shot.
his eyes really tight, kind of
Yeah.
screws them up.
Okay. And yeah, Rook will cast Review Memory on Torin.
Okay. Elwyn, as Rook casts this and you're kind of watching, you see that shock of white hair is completely gone. It's back to blonde.
Noted.
Yep. Rook, your vision of the cellar vanishes and you're pulled into Torin's memory. Suddenly, eyes that are not your own are blinking as you're walking down the street, and you can see that the street lights beginning to turn on as night begins to fall on the city. It's a peaceful night overall. The person whose head you are inhabiting seems to be looking from side to side, kind of taking in the sights of the city. And then Torin spots a flash of color in an alleyway. And I'm trying to remember what color this would be. Hold on just a second. Checking my notes.
If it's rainbow, it's gotta be Harmony.
Yep, it's a little tiefling woman.
Run!
The city's screwed. No.
We're all gonna die.
It would be a flash of greenish color.
Okay.
A robe, and that catches his attention, and you can kind of see that the head tilts to the side as he begins to change course and head into the alley itself. And when he does so, he begins to look around and initially doesn't see anything. But then forms begin to move from behind, bins of trash and crates of things that are stashed in this alley. And a woman in sort of a loose-fitting green robe with no sleeves, so that it reveals her, very lean and muscled arms, and also these metal knuckles that she has adorned her fists with, steps out in front of him with a group of 4 cloaked figures stepping out behind. He looks to the woman and says, "Ah, an ambush, I see. Cowardly tactics." And the woman kind of just smiles at him. And she has like kind of long, dark, curly-ish hair. That's got a very kind of glossy sheen to it. Roll a perception check.
Gladly. Oh shoot, that's pretty good. It's a 19 plus 4.
Yeah, that's really good. She actually, as you kind of look at her through Torin's eyes, you notice things that he didn't in the heat of the moment, because you were coming at this from kind of an analytical approach where he's very much preparing for battle mentally.
That's what I was hoping for.
You see that she has actually, it looks like scales or something like that underneath her eyes, just small greenish scales. And her eyes they're a very bright green, but they have, the pupils are kind of slitted, like a cat's or like a snake's. And she just says, "Cowardly may be, but you cannot be allowed to continue what you're doing. And so you must die." And then she rushes in, and basically what ensues, you don't feel the pain through the memory, but you basically witness Torin engages with her, and he like pulls out a sword and gets his shield in between him and her. But she, using like quick speed and agility, is able to get in between his shield and him, and gets a few quick punches in between plates in his armor, which kind of buckles him to the ground. And then you see flashes of like swords and things from behind, as the four figures behind join the fray and begin to hack at him as well. It's not a very long fight. He doesn't put up he doesn't get in any significant wounds on too many of his assailants. He probably got one or two of the scimitar wielding assailants from behind him with a blow or two, but not enough to take them down or anything like that. Mostly just enough to send them reeling. But it becomes very quickly apparent that it's a hopeless fight, and he manages to pull a actually quite impressive move where he uses his shield to kind of launch the woman backwards. And as she flies backwards, she kind of falls slowly, like she glides to the ground gracefully, landing in kind of a three-pointed pose on the ground. But it's enough to get her back off of him. And then he whips the shield around and basically barrels through the other four and tries to flee out of the alley. And that's when there's probably like a sharp prick to the neck, and because you could see a hand flies up to the neck, a clawed dragonborn hand, and pulls a dart out, and then the vision begins to blur, and then blackness.
Yeah, so I think everybody sort of sees Rook also close his eyes as he rests his hand on Torin, and then you can see his lips moving. He's like muttering something and as he's sort of analyzing and going through this motion. But then also when the fight starts, he starts like using his hand to like cover where he's getting hit. He's like gritting his teeth, kind of like bracing for impact a little bit as he's going through this. And you see him sort of his head sort of like trying to
I lean to Embers. Do you think he's all right? Should we do something?
Oh, you're muted, Nick.
Embers is busy at this point because after they both closed their eyes, I think Embers would have leaned over to Tuppence and said, "Tuppence, I need your makeup kit."
Okay.
And I take it, and she very carefully starts painting Torin's face with big bushy eyebrows on above his eyes, and a snot ridge from one of the nose, and like little tears coming out from his eyes too.
Oh,
my
do you have
gosh.
proficiency with like a disguise kit, or and what else could this be?
No, this might be sleight of hand.
Yeah, I'd give it sleight of hand if you've got proficiency there. If not, just dexterity.
Yeah, I'm gonna go sleight of hand.
So the spell doesn't say that the target loses like senses or anything. So
Yeah, but you told
I told
Torin to
him
close
I
his
told him to
eyes
close
and
his eyes.
focus on it, so
Yeah.
that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that he probably feels these things.
Not if Embers is really good.
Yeah.
Yep, not if Embers is really good.
I was really good. I rolled 23.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's how long does the spell last?
It's
You
a
reviewed
minute.
just about a minute. So you don't have too much time, but you have just enough to get, those changes that you mentioned done, and pack back up the makeup kit and get it back to Tuppence. Tuppence's makeup kit is also like really small, so it takes really fine detailing skills to get this sort of look that you've got, but you succeed. And when you open your eyes again, Torin still has his eyes kind of like all screwed up shut, and he's clearly focusing. He's not aware that your spell is over, but you open your eyes and you see this makeup on him.
Yeah, so Rook kind of like jumps a little bit and then did you already put everything away? Or okay. So then he kind of like looks around at people and kind of like, and then looks at Torin, smiles a little bit.
Embers
And
just
then-
winks at him.
Yeah.
A new after effect of the spell.
Yeah. And so Rook kind of just smiles and then kind of, puts a serious face back on and kind of takes his hand away from Torin's shoulder, and then it's like,
Is that it?
All
Is
right.
it over?
It's over.
Did it work?
Yes.
He opens his eyes.
Yeah.
Did you
Aha!
find anything?
Excellent.
Find anything interesting? Anything that we can use in there?
Yeah, Rook kind of folds his arms and thinks for a little bit, and then just kind of goes through and explains sort of step by step everything that he saw and that he realized and noticed that happened, and kind of zones in on the woman and her actions and stuff like that.
What was your perception check again?
23.
23.
I
Oh,
think,
that was really
right?
good.
Yeah, it was like a 19 plus 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will say one last thing you notice at kind of the end as Torin's vision is going dark and blurry and he's kind of falling to the ground. It seems like the group of them are running off into, I'm just going to give you a direction from where they were. Let's see. I know I have a note on this somewhere. But it would be kind of in the southwest direction, I think.
Any specific landmarks in that direction from where he was?
That you can think of within the city. I mean, he was ambushed in, kind of more of the northern part of the city. So a good chunk of the city is in the southwestern direction from him. So it'd be hard to pinpoint a specific landmark, but that was the general direction that they were running in when he fell.
Yeah. So Rook's thinking really hard about the woman and how she's not a human at all from what he saw. And like what kind of creature, what kind of race or person has, scales and slitted eyes and stuff like that can do these acrobatics. And
would I, based on the description, know what kind of creature that might be? Based on studies or whatever?
Anyone who wanted to could roll. What kind of check would this be? I'm trying to run through the list of skills in my head. Definitely history would apply. I don't know. Can you think of any other skills that you might be able to apply to this? History is the one that jumps to my head.
History works for me.
To like determine.
Like nature check?
Yeah, nature could work.
I got a natural 20 on my history check, so that's 25.
Oh, and I have 23.
Okay.
On both history and nature. Either way.
I rolled a 1.
Happens. Yeah, Rook, nothing really comes to you.
I think he's focused on the direction right now. He's like, what about this thing that I'm realizing?
I'm going history because I feel like this is maybe something I would have studied.
Yeah, that's fair.
If we're going nature, I'll go nature because it gives me one more 22.
22.
Sweet.
Okay,
wow,
yeah. So
really good.
all three of you will draw the same conclusion. Tuppence, it's kind of a mystery to me how you would have come across this bit of lore, having grown up in the Feywild. But I suppose maybe your mother told you all kinds of stories from various corners of the world. Embers, I doubt you ever encountered a creature like this, but being the well-read and studious individual that you are, you certainly would have read about them. And Elwyn, probably same deal. Like in your education growing up, you would have read about creatures like this. There was a type of creature, a sentient humanoid creature. They mostly dwelled in the continent of Freydin a long, long time ago, back when sort of monstrous groups of creatures had rulership over most of the world. There was a group of people with sort of, blood connections and deep affinity with snakes, known as the Yuan-Ti. And this description of sort of little patches of scales under the eyes and the slitted snake-like eyes very much sound like a branch of that type of creature. I forget what they're called. there's a subset of this type of creature that only manifests like small serpentine qualities,
Is
but
that like the
otherwise,
pure blood?
I think so. Yeah, the purebloods. I think that's what they're called. They only manifest a few snake-like qualities, but other than that, retain almost human-like appearance, and it sounds, based on Rook's description, like that sort of creature.
Packs with a poison too.
Fucking knew it.
The other thing with checks like those that I would mention is, especially as Embers says that, you start to draw another connection, which is the color of her robe. You know that this Brotherhood group reveres dragons, and green dragons are known for having poisonous breath.
Interesting.
Well, that's all very interesting, but I don't know how that's going to help us track them down or figure out what exactly they're after. Now we know that they're going to be trying to what's the word?
Slytherin.
Attack a caravan.
Yes, we must figure out what
Intercept, that's the
caravan
word.
they are attempting to intercept and beat them to the punch.
Well, I mean, we at least have a time frame, right? So certainly there has to be some sort of, scheduled delivery or some sort of transportation going on within that time frame that's important enough to draw this attention.
Lauren, do you know of anybody who's reported any stolen weapons in the last few days?
He thinks about it and then kind of shakes his head. No, that's a bit above my pay grade, that sort of thing. I'm really just one of the lower ranking members. I am still working my way up the ladder, so to speak.
I see. Is there
You
any
have
way you
any
could
way
get
to
that
find
information? Jinx!
Well, I could certainly try, check in with my superiors and see if any such, weapons have been stolen from elsewhere in the city.
I mean, if anything, it might get us a new lead, someone else we can talk to for more information.
Yeah.
The wardens also can get access to, logs and records of things coming and going from the city. If well, I'll have to call in some favors, but I might be able to acquire this information.
Yeah, I guess springing from our other conversation the other night, is this enough information to warrant, like, some extra resources from your department, or like?
He kind of shakes his head slowly and says, unfortunately, we need something a bit more tangible to go on at this point.
I mean, you were attacked, and certainly attacking a warden is already an offense enough, and if we can put them together and say it was this group that's doing another thing, I mean, isn't that plenty?
This is true, but the wardens do take time to mobilize for things like this. I can do my best to push things from within, but like I said, I'm a low-ranking member at the moment, and he kind of like is rubbing the back of his head as he says this in kind of slight embarrassment. If I had a bit more clout, I could probably achieve something like this. I could probably mobilize forces to investigate quicker, but unfortunately,
Todd, would it
I wouldn't
be-
expect too much of a reaction in an immediate sense until we have something more tangible to hand the wardens.
How difficult would it be to get a meeting with the governor?
He raises the eyebrow ridges with the makeup on it.
The eyebrow and the eyebrow.
Yep.
I reckon if the governor is somehow involved in all this, and if she's a target, or even if she isn't, she might have information about which caravan is going to be attacked, right? If they expect her to be showing up.
Governor Nyasa does occasionally. She has in the past, in exceptional circumstances, listened to the concerns of plain individuals from the city. It is possible that if we brought this to her, we may be able to get an audience. We'd have to convince her personal guards at Harbor Watch Citadel, but
Well,
it
that
is
wouldn't
an
be too
option.
hard. I have a certain way about me.
Well, what if we went to the merchants themselves? They must have records of what's coming. Possible caravans. We could sneak and look at the records.
Yeah, he nods and
mean,
says,
I
as I
overheard a
said,
couple of them the other night.
it is possible that I can get access to these records as a member of the Wardens. I just have to.
But whatever it is they're trying to steal is something to help them restore power to dragons. Something tells me it might be something that might be left off of a register.
That is also a possibility.
But it might give us a clue if we knew it was coming, where something could possibly hide in the middle of one.
There will be a great number of these records if we go this route. Sifting through them will take some time and effort, but between the 5 of us, we may be able to manage.
Well, Torin, I think that your expertise might be best served going back to the Wardens and trying to get as much information from them as you can. Working those connections, calling in those favors. That's something that only you can do. The rest of us can't do that.
We have our own leads to follow up anyway.
And then the rest of us, maybe we can go and try to talk to the governor or follow up some other lead.
He nods slowly and says, he looks like he's thinking about something and then finally spits it out. There is another option. They've tried to kill me once. They presume me dead, I assume. If I were to reveal in some public sense that I am not dead, we might be able to bait them into a trap and capture some members for interrogation.
Oh, wouldn't that be dangerous?
He gives
We
you.
can't put you in that danger again.
He gives
You're
you
barely
a warm,
recovered from
a warm
last
look
time.
and a smile and says, "It is my duty as a member of the Imperial Wardens to protect the people. And if that means putting my life on the line once again, then I shall."
Brizzer rolls her eyes.
Very, very
Torin
pretty.
doesn't notice.
A very pretty speech.
Well, I think that is very admirable of you, Mr. Brenworm, but you can't protect anybody if you are baiting people into a trap and end up dying in the process.
But that's what the group of you would be there for. I wager the group of you are quite accomplished in your own way. Otherwise, Malt would never have assigned you to the job I tasked.
What do the rest of you think?
What does Rook think about the UNT woman's strength as far as compared to what he's seen Embers do and stuff and other.
Too bad you don't have some
Know your
ability
enemy
to
or
measure
whatever.
hit
Yeah,
points.
some fighter feature. I was like, dang it.
she honestly looked pretty terrifying as an opponent. But some of the things she did, you've seen Embers do. Yeah, it's hard to say. It was a pretty rough battle for Torin, but it was just him, and there are 5 of you all together.
So I think Rook would look at Elwyn and look at Torin and say, Torin, I think you and I both know that we don't want you up against that woman again.
Well, that's very kind of you.
Maybe
Rook.
this is a good plan B.
Or plan C, as it were.
Or plan C. Maybe we should hit up our other, investigations first, and then if we have to, this is something that is sure to maybe draw attention.
Very well, very well. I won't force the matter, but just remember, it is an option if we are running up against dead ends.
Remember to not go darting about too much. Make sure you're with your platoon.
Have someone walk you home.
You might consider wearing some sort of disguise, like maybe makeup or something.
I've never applied makeup to myself before. It is something to consider, though.
Well, Embers is pretty skilled at it. You could always ask for her help.
However, I doubt I can get access to the warden's records or procure resources from my commanding officers in disguise.
Just
Seems
a
to
thought.
consider that deeply.
You would know better than we would.
I'm looking at Rook and Embers and Tuppence. What do y'all want to do?
I will tell you later.
All right.
Now, Torin,
Yes.
it sounds like you really want to come with us and help us. Could it be that you might be a little bit afraid to walk around by yourself?
He shakes his head and says, No, not at all.
Okay.
I do have the night shift today, so I can accompany you for the day if you wish to follow up leads together. If you're headed to Harbor Watch Citadel, certainly being accompanied by an Imperial Warden will lend credence to your story. Low rank as I may be. And I am quite willing to offer any aid that I can.
We have our ways too, but are you sure you don't need a little bit more rest?
He is absolutely not picking up on like any of the subtleties of the situation. Like Ember's discomfort with the fact that he wants to come along with you, what Tuppence is needling at. Like he just seems very confused. Nope, I feel fine. I've had my coffee, and the healing magic seems to have done the trick.
So maybe
I'm fit as a fiddle.
maybe we'll, since it's still early, maybe we'll hit up one of our other leads for right now, and then we'll come back and compare notes, and then if we end up going there, maybe we'll ask if you don't mind, if you have time to tag along.
All right. Well then.
Why don't you see if there's anything you can help Nora with here while you're here, hiding out? And we'll be back in an hour or two.
Surely there are more productive things I can be doing. You said that it would be helpful if I went to the wardens, and what should I ask for? There
This
were
is
a couple
true, but-
ideas thrown about.
You're right that everyone thinks you're dead right now.
Well,
Well,
the
Or at least
workers
the Brotherhood does. If you
Yeah.
go out to the what is it, the Thrims Gate, and
Brimsgate
start
Barracks, yeah.
throwing yourself around at the wardens, like word's gonna get out that you're not dead. And maybe keeping that a secret is a good thing for now.
I mean, he has a shift today anyway, so it's like, you know.
Well, maybe he doesn't show up for his shift.
Well, that would look very bad. I must attend my shift.
It would only look bad if they knew you were still alive, Sugar.
Yeah, he's not a shiftless character at all.
Maybe you just shouldn't go back to work.
He laughs and says, you all joke. No, my place is with the wardens. I must return to my job eventually. I do see the wisdom in laying low for the moment. And he seems conflicted. Elwyn, you were the one pushing for him to lay low. Would you roll a persuasion check for me?
Sure.
And you can take advantage from the rest of the group helping.
Persuasion. Man, I have good bonus on that one too. I dropped my other one. Okay, but that's 17.
17. Yeah, he says, yes, very well. I will stick around here for the moment while the group of you pursue our leads. But
That's what you hired us to do.
I ask of you just one thing. If you
Sure.
stumble upon anything significant, anything big that takes you into danger, please come and fetch me. I can't sit idly while the group of you put yourself in harm's way. I just can't.
I think that'll be easy enough for us to agree to.
Very well. Then I shall remain.
And try not to speak about this while we're not here, all right? You never know who's going to come into this place.
Very, very true. Mum's the word. And he kind of makes a zipper motion across his dragony mouth.
Embers habitually looks upward, even
There's
though
no-
we're in the cellar.
Yeah, roll a perception check.
Sure. Pretty good. I think that's like the 22. No, not that good. 20. Dirty 20.
No sign of malt. There is kind of like a hole in one of the floorboards above you, but it seems directly above you is kind of like the back office of the mill house, and you don't see anyone like peeking through it or whatever. And the back office of the mill house is rather secure, so you gathered that you're probably not being overheard at the moment.
Okay.
All right. Well, that settles it. Let's go back upstairs.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. After you go back upstairs, Torin kind of bids the group of you farewell to let you off to do your own thing, and goes back up to his room. But you can see that he's kind of like, I don't want to say dejected, but he doesn't seem to like know what to do with himself.
Kind of moping a little bit.
Yeah, he's moping a little bit.
Yeah. To be
He
expected.
goes back up the stairs back towards his room.
Does anybody notice him on his way up?
Yeah, Nora, I think, sees him as he comes through, and she doesn't quite know what to do. Her eyes just kind of like go wide, and then he's like, "Hello!" And she like jumps, gets startled, and goes back to her work. However, Molo, who has finished sweeping, and is now tasked with drying wet plates, spots him from across the room and says, "Hey, Dragon Man, you got some stuff on your face." And Torin kind of looks at him and says, "What? What do you mean?" Look out, there's makeup all over your eyebrows. You got funny eyebrows." And Torin just seems confused. "What? I have no such thing. I don't know what you mean." And "Be off with you, tiny kobold." Goes up the stairs, and Molo just is like cracking up in the chair. And when the group of you come up behind Torin, Molo just says, "Why did you do that? That's really funny. I liked it. That's good stuff." He has no idea, does he?
He has no idea.
What a dummy.
Drag.
Well,
All right. Well, which of these leads are we going to pursue first?
I liked the idea of the auction one.
Me too.
All right. Do we know where it is?
I
wrote
think-
down where it is.
Malt gave you directions, and if he didn't,
Let's
then
go.
Called like
he could
highest
certainly-
bid or something.
Yes, the
Yeah.
place is called Highest Bid.
Is it?
And it's by the docks.
Yeah, thereabouts. So you're just gonna head out in towards the auction
Yeah.
house then?
Let's go.
Okay,
In classic Silver Seeker fashion, we head out.
head out. You make your way out into the city. It's well into the morning at this point. The city is already coming alive. You can hear the sounds of ships coming into the harbor, bells ringing, signifying that they are coming and going. I think as you go out in this direction, let me see. I'm just trying to open my map of the city. Yeah, you probably have to cross through what's known as the Maritime Market. And it's kind of a district of the city that is just a sprawling marketplace. You can see that some of the stalls there that are set up are more temporary. Some are more like fixed in place. There are some actual like building stores that seem to be permanent fixtures of the marketplace. But there are also, various wagons that have clearly just come into town today, rolled up to the market and set up shop. You guess that you could probably find just about anything you were looking for in the Maritime Market. And it's already at this hour in the morning just bustling with people. Some people doing shopping for like, meals for the day, supplies to make meals that they need to prepare. Some people shopping for, for fun, looking for trinkets. Other people seem to be looking for more functional things. There's like, tool merchants selling various tools and things like that. It's a very busy district of the city, and with the sun shining down on it and the seagulls kind of calling out, it's a very fun and warm atmosphere.
I think as we are passing through, I'm just definitely like window shopping and like pointing out the cool things that I find to like tuppence.
Like, what sort of things would catch Elwyn's eye?
Oh, I don't know. I think maybe handmade things that look like they were crafted with like cheap or flimsy materials, or maybe something that looks like it was very artistically made, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of merchants here who clearly bring, handmade, art or, other things for sale, as well as like, various clothing items that seem to be like handmade as well. One of the more interesting ones you see a kobold wearing kind of dark glasses, and has a little bit of a beret on the head. And they're selling what looks like modern abstract art statues comprised of various like ship pieces or wagon wheels, metal scraps and junk, but it's all artistically shaped into various forms. Like there's a small statuette made of junk of what would it be of like we'll say like a bear perhaps, that's kind of like stood on its hind legs, and it's wearing a top hat. It's like all kinds of weird stuff.
Everything I wanted out of this marketplace, in this one NPC.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like I probably would be like really tempted to kind of linger and look, and like Rook or Embers or somebody would have to like, come on, Ellen, we don't have time. Come on.
And always come
along.
back.
I just gently grab your arm and
just
keep pulling you along.
Shopping is the best therapy. Don't you feel great right now, Ellen?
Oh, everything's so interesting. I just love it.
I love this place.
Do any sorts of things draw any of the rest of your eyes?
Go ahead. Go ahead. It's fine.
I think Embers would linger a little bit at some of the like clothing stalls.
Oh yeah, there's plenty, and in all ranges of price and fashion. Pretty much anything you're looking for, any sort of outfit you might want to procure, it looks like you could buy in one of the stalls or more permanent fixtures of the town.
Anything for petites?
I just made a wisdom saving throw and I passed.
To like resist the urge to buy.
Oh no. Oh no.
There's not much in Tuppence's size. There's some like baby outfits, like onesies that might fit, but not much.
I'll make my own.
I think that Rook on the way here and to the highest bid is going to be a little distracted. He's maybe a little bit paranoid and he's like looking for if people are potentially following him, or some like looking for maybe someone that he recognizes or something.
Sure.
So he's probably not paying too much attention to the market and stuff. So can I roll like a perception check?
Yeah, roll
or
a perception
something?
check.
Okay. It's 15.
15. You don't know if it's just the paranoia, but it feels like as you're walking through the market, it feels like the group of you are drawing a lot of attention. Like it seems, as much as your friends are enthralled by the various wares that are available, it seems like people and other shoppers seem to glance at you more frequently than you'd expect. But you don't spot anything particularly suspicious.
Yeah, so I think Rook sort of tries to gently hurry people along. Kind of like, I think we should probably get going, guys, and just like kind of trying to keep everybody moving and get out of this crowded place.
All right, another day then, Elwyn, huh?
Oh, I hope that little kobold's back next time, because those little art pieces are so cute.
Mm-hmm.
The kobold seem to have a semi-permanent stand. It's not like a building or anything like that, like an actual proper shop. But unlike some of these wagons that seem to have just rolled up for the day, it seems to be a stall that has kind of a worn position within the market. So it's a fair bet that this kobold will be available at some point in the future.
Excellent.
Rook, with that perception check, you do notice one other thing that I think about.
Okay.
As you're walking south and west towards the auction house, on the directions that Malt gave you, and you're kind of warily looking around, you do happen to, you feel a shadow pass over you. It's as if the sunlight gets less bright for a moment. And that's enough to, in your hyper alert state, draw your eyes upward. And you spot something high in the sky, kind of silhouetted against the morning sun. A large form, scaled reptilian with an incredible wingspan, large enough to cast a shadow across your entire group as it passes overhead. A white dragon flies above you in a northern direction.
Shoot.
Off into the distance.
Is it being like ridden by anybody, or just like it's just?
With your perception check, you can't quite tell. You kind of like have to hold your hand up
Yeah,
against
looking
the
for
sun,
like a
because the sun is
saddle or
just so
something.
bright in your eyes.
Yeah, he doesn't like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to make anything out. But you spot this dragon flying northward, it seems.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it seems like you're the only one in your group who noticed it, since the rest of your friends are kind of preoccupied with their window shopping.
All right.
Okay. Well, the group of you make your way along the directions that Malt gave you. It's a long walk, but it's a peaceful walk. And you get to see sections of the city that you haven't seen before up to this point. And you find yourselves in front of a sort of very plain and unassuming looking, almost like a warehouse. If it didn't have a sign over the front in kind of scrawling letters that said the highest bid, you would have no idea that this is sort of the auction house that you were looking for. Especially since it's in very much like a warehouse and docks sector of the city. Like everything around it seems to have more of a functional purpose in the import and export that comes, as part of being a port city. Yeah, and you find yourself standing outside this building. What would you like to do?
Nothing sets it apart from anything else, huh?
Nope, nothing sets it apart.
Okay. Okay. That's funny.
I'll knock. Yeah.
As you knock on the door, the door actually opens out the other way, almost kind of knocking you over. And a train of kobolds comes walking out carrying boxes, chattering to each other in Draconic.
Which none of us speak still.
They don't seem to take much notice of you, and they just kind of go out the door and begin to walk around the corner to like it looks like there's like a side storage building.
If it's important, I can cast comprehend languages.
Well, I mean, we knew he employed kobolds, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess with the door open, Rook will just start
Slide
walking
on in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Hello?
the inside of this building is a stark contrast to the outside. It is richly, finely, and opulently decorated inside. All of the furniture is upholstered with this kind of like a scarlet velvet. And there are, like velvet drapes that hang across the windows and things like that have gold tassels and, kind of like gold cord fringe to them. It is clearly designed to appear as an affluent space. That's not a word. Affluent. There's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Nick. Affluent space within here. And as you walk in and call out, hello, you hear from a balcony space above a voice call back, why, hello. And you look up and you see a man dressed in a fine suit, kind of like a navy blue color to it. And he has this kind of it's that light like powder blue. Is it like a cornflower blue? Is that what it's called? Something like that. You know the one I'm talking about. Bow tie that he's wearing there. He has wispy white hair that almost appears to be like a cloud in and of itself that is just kind of swooshed up into the side a little bit. And he absolutely wears a monocle. And he says, welcome to the highest bid. I am Squall, the proprietor of this establishment. What can I do for you fine ladies and gentlemen? And he begins to strut even down a staircase towards you.
Oh my God, I love him.
There's been a lot of good NPCs in this game so far.
I love him so much.
He comes up to the group of you and extends a hand.
Do you want to come stay at the mill house?
That's right. Everyone's going to be staying at the mill house.
I thought you were going to say, do you want to marry me?
Since Elwyn was the one who kind of called out to greet him, he extends a hand out towards Elwyn.
Yes, and I will take it enthusiastically and just say,
he
well,
clasps
hello.
your hand with both of his hands and shakes gently. Hello. What might I call you, my friends?
Well, we are the Silver Seekers, and we are here.
A fine name.
We are here at the behest of Mont. He said you were looking for someone to help with a theft problem you had.
Yes, the tiny dragon. I put that request in some days ago. At this point, I was beginning to become concerned that he was not going to fulfill his end of the bargain and send people my direction. Well, I'm quite glad to see you. Your names, if I may inquire.
Well, my name is Elwyn Amelos.
A pleasure.
Amelos?
I'm charmed.
Amelos.
Rook.
Charmed.
Pleasure to meet you.
Ash.
It is an absolute delight to make your acquaintance, every one of you. Well, I have no knowledge of these matters. How do you proceed in situations such as these?
Why don't you tell us what was stolen and any clues you might have? Anything we might
yes,
start?
indeed. A fine place to start. Come with me. And he begins to, his back straight as an arrow, stride up the stairs. And as he turns around and begins to elegantly walk up the stairs, you can actually see that his suit has coattails as well.
Of course it does.
Yep.
Is he human?
He is an air genasi.
That's what I thought he must be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and I should mention he has actually kind of light bluish, purplish skin as well. Let me see if I have any other descriptions of him. It's up in my other section of my notes.
Eye
just
color,
to make sure I
shoe
don't miss
size.
anything. He has actually kind of small, dainty feet, probably like.
I wasn't serious about shoe size.
I know, but I guess he has like size 9 in men's, you know.
Oh my gosh, this guy.
Let's see. Squall, there we go. Oh, he has a slight hook to his nose that I forgot to mention, and kind of like pale blue skin. Yep. Yep, that is Squall.
Okay.
And he begins to lead you upstairs, and I think we're about out of time, so I suppose that's a good place to pick up next week.
What a cliffhanger.
Yep.
2 weeks.
Oh yeah, 2 weeks from now
Yeah.
because we're off next week.
Yeah.
You'll have to wait for more Squall. Well, my friends, thank you for playing. Thank you to everyone who tuned in to watch. As I said, we'll be back with more of this. We'll pick up right here in 2 weeks' time. So I hope to see you then. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.